gentlemen, at this time we're going to begin the funeral services of Josephine H. Sloan. Rabbi Jacob Leisman will be officiating. For those of you who are here, please take a moment to be sure that your phones have been turned off, not to disturb the sacred funeral ceremony. And to those of you who are joining us on live stream, we welcome you. At this time, the rabbi and cantor are going to perform the ancient ceremony of Kriya, tearing of the ribbon.
Hi, everyone. I am Rabbi Jacob Leisman. It's a real honor to officiate in general over Joe's funeral, and especially so with Joe's step-granddaughter, Cantor Lindsay Schoenberger Cantor, who will be co-officiating with me. So we remember Josephine Hartenstein Hirsch Sloan. Join our hearts together to give comfort and strength to each other as her family, her friends, and her community. I want to extend condolences to Joe's immediate family, her children, Gary and Ellen, their spouses, Millie and William, their children, Joe's grandchildren, Randall and Joanna Hirsch, Bill and Rachel Feely, David and Haley Hirsch, Robbie Feely, Ricky Hirsch, and Matt Feely, as well as their children, Joe's great-grandchildren, Henry Feely, Sadie Feely, Elias Heyman, Dylan Heyman, and Avery Hirsch. I also want to extend my condolences to Joe's stepchildren, grandchildren, nieces, and nephews, Adina and Stephen Schoenberger, Avi Sloan, Renana and Richard Lubavitch, Danielle and Mark Sarinsky, Cantor Lindsay Cantor, and your husband David, Matt and Lori Sloan, Brooke and Miles Grossblatt, Rose Lubavitch, Gail and Bill Neiman, Lori Winter, and Ronald Hirsch. Mourning is a time filled with many emotions and memories, both bitter and sweet. And we'll begin our service with the recitation of psalms, prayers, and readings, linking Joe's life with the millennia-old tradition of the people Israel and the eternity of God. And we'll begin with Psalm 23.
Adonai roi lo exor birute sheyorbiteri al menuchot in Nafshi yeshoviv, yeshoviv, yancheri b'magelei tzedek, yancheri b'magelei tzedek, leman shemo. Come
I invite you to join me reading the translation of Psalm 23 on the inside cover of your pamphlet. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. We continue with another psalm, more words of comfort, Psalm 121. I turn my eyes to the mountains, from where will my help come? My help comes from Adonai, maker of heaven and earth. We now have the opportunity to hear from those who knew and loved Joe most. We'll begin with Joe's daughter, Ellen, along with her husband, Bill, if you'd like to make your way up here.
Bill's here in case I can't do this. I looked up to my mom for my entire life. She was a very strong, smart, and genuine woman. As I watched her navigate life with its ups and downs, I always admired her resilience, the positive outlook she maintained. She lived life to the fullest with grace and poise. My mom knew all my secrets because she was such a great listener. I always took an avid interest in my life. She will always tell me, Ellen, it will all work out, you'll see. When Gary married Millie, and I married Bill, she welcomed them as her daughter and son. Our families became the most important to her. She loved her 6 grandsons, Randall, Billy, David, Robbie, Ricky, and Matt. And as they married, she treasured her new granddaughters, Rachel, Joanna, and Haley. And of course, she cherished her great-grandchildren, Henry, Sadie, Elias, Dylan, and Avery. My mom also had a special place in her heart for Bud's bunch, his children and grandchildren. We were so fortunate to have her in our lives for so long, and we hope we can carry on her spirit as we move forward. Throughout her life, my mom had so many true blue friends, both in Chicago and in Florida. A special group was her bridge pals that she met once a week for the last 50 years. She was fortunate enough to play her last game with them just a few weeks ago. My mom loved my girlfriends and made each of them feel so special because they were so good to her too, and she knew that. Finally, I want to mention my mother's caregivers who cared for her the last several years with so much love and compassion. Roxy, Val, Rebecca, Palma, Maria, thank you for your selfless and unwavering care for our mom. I will miss my mom, but I hope I can carry on her spirit, still make her proud of me. I love you, Mom. Hats off to you.
Now, Gary.
Ellen, that was beautiful. Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Joe Hirsch's son, Gary. That's how I used to introduce myself when I was growing up, because everybody knew Mom. Even my friends, Ellen's friends, eventually our kids' friends, everyone knew and loved Joe. I'd like to welcome you all here for helping celebrate, not grieve, the life of my mother. As you know, my mother loved a good celebration. This is not a time to grieve, but a time to celebrate. She lived a great life, and she loved her friends, her family, and she would appreciate all of your kind wishes. She touched so many people. She loved parties and really enjoyed when everyone said something for the occasion. She would like everyone to speak. That's why I'm speaking. I didn't want to, but okay, Mom, you happy? So to honor her, we will be passing around a microphone so that everyone here can tell a short story of Joe or a remembrance. So you all get a chance to say something. Just kidding. But Mom would have loved it. Mom, you were loved by so many, and we will all cherish your memory. Hats off to you, Mom. Thank you.
I'll now invite up Billy Feely.
I'll take Billy for this group. That's good. So great to see so many of you. My Nana Joe would have loved this. Standing room only. A great life to be remembered. My name is Bill, or Billy Feely, one of the 6 proud grandsons of Richard and Josephine Hirsch. While funerals come for many with great sadness and it brings light to loss, I think, as my Uncle Gary just said, we're here to celebrate my Nana Joe. She was an incredible person. Nana Joe was accomplished from a very young age. She was an amazing tap dancer. She was a great intellect, graduating from Northwestern in World War II at a time when many women didn't even contemplate going to college. She was an avid tennis player on the circuits of Chicago and Florida, and fluent in Spanish, and would converse with anyone who would listen in Spanish. For those who knew her, however, her resume of accomplishments is not what comes to mind. She will be remembered as someone who truly lived life. Nana Jo did not check boxes or go through the motions of life. Maybe it was her lineage from the Alsace-Lorraine region of France, but she lived the joie de vivre. What I remember most about my Nana is how she connected with people and really cared if they were having their best time. In my mother and Gary's generation, she was widely known throughout the Braeside area as the Witch of Indian Tree. Every Halloween, she would dress in full green face paint, buy dry ice, and stand out with a broom and a cauldron in front to make sure that every kid in that neighborhood was having a great time. She did not just dress up for Halloween. She took our birthdays to the next level, insisting that they be on theme. This went horribly wrong for me on my third birthday when she dressed in full head-to-toe Ronald McDonald in a completely realistic environment. To this day, there's even a storage room in her basement still full of every one of these pieces of memorabilia. It's a literal museum of 1950 to present. My Nana Jo was always up for a great time. On a spring break from college, I flew down to Florida to stay with her and Papa Bud. Sensing that I wanted a break from the Florida norm of a 4:30 early bird Chinese buffet, she suggested we go to Disney World. We piled into Papa Bud's car and cannonball ran it all the way to Orlando at 100 miles an hour. At this time, my Nana was actually in great physical fitness. She played tennis several times a week, but suggested she get one of those motorized mobility scooters so we could maximize our time there and cut the lines. I spent the next 2 days literally chasing her around Disney World as we hit every single ride. Everywhere you went with Nana Jo, people would come over to say hi and tell me what an incredible person she was. It was not just her contemporaries, it was my friends, my mom's friends, the perfect strangers. It was impossible to move from the pool to dinner at Indian Spring or to make our way to our seats at the Highland Park 4th of July parade without getting stopped. It would make you proud and confident just to be in her presence, and everyone wanted to be a part of that. A testament to that is an inbox filled today with notes from all of my friends, and great to see some of them here today. I can't, however, forget to mention one note and moment of her uncanny, off-script, braggadociousness when she changed her Mercedes license plate to Nana 1. So there was no confusion for the rest of Highland Park who was boss and the grandmothers and the ladies holding court at Country Kitchen. She was Nana 1. She was the best. I'm very lucky to have spent so many years with my Nana. I think we are very similar spirits, but I do think I learned much of who I am because of her. Her unwavering love and kindness, empathy, and most importantly, unstoppable positivity. In her last days as her body and mind were declining, I was lucky enough to spend a couple of visits with her at Whitehall and home, where she was up and active. I was so fortunate to get a couple of those amazing smiles and laughs, and it reminded me, even in the last phase of life, even in her declining moments, she was living on brand. Since she has passed over the last couple days, I have pored over pictures and emails, notes and memories of my Nana. My favorite one is a picture of her at the Fantas family picnic. She's playing egg toss with my son Henry. In the background is my mom holding a roll of toilet paper and my Uncle Gary with his megaphone. And she's wearing a shirt from that my company made that actually said, "Live life to the fullest." She really did. She truly lived life, and we are all better and happier people for having shared in it.
Thanks, Bill. I'll now invite up Henry Feely and Sadie. Yeah, please. And as as I'm sure everyone knew already, but this is even more illustration of Joe's really generational impact and influence that we have 3 generations speaking about her.
Hi, my name is Henry Feely, and this is my sister Sadie Feely, and we are some of Nana Jo's great-grandchildren. I have many fond memories of Nana Jo over 15 years, and it would take me hours to go through all of them, so I'll pick some of my favorites to keep it short. One of my best memories of Nana Jo was interviewing her for my 8th grade oral history project. I was the only person ever to interview a great-grandparent, and during the project, I met and spoke with her many times about her life and historical events in her life. I learned that she was always positive. Even Even when she talked about tough times like the space race, polio, and the Cuban Missile Crisis, she told me her father would take her out for ice cream and say it was going to be okay, and it was. And I think this quality carried over into her. Another fond memory I have of Nana is giving her a tech makeover. I felt that she had done so much for me that I had to do something to give back. So I went to work. I installed a digital picture frame so she could see all of her family all the time, got her a flat screen TV, and got her up to date with Netflix and Hulu. And I even created my own streaming service to allow her to stream home movies. And I think she watched my parents' funeral, or, oh my God, my parents' wedding 5 times over. I love seeing her enjoy the things I installed and got to spend so much quality time with her while I was there, learning about all of her interests and what she liked to watch. She was always amazed at how far technology has come from VHS tapes to being able to stream content over the internet, and I was glad I was able to introduce her to all the new ways she could binge watch The Bachelor. Nana Jo is a crucial part of my life, and I strive to emulate all of her great qualities, which are all of them, of course, and I will miss my Nana very much. Thank you.
I'm so lucky to have my Nana Jo for the last 12 years. She was always a part of my things which were important to me, whether it was American Girl birthday parties when I was little or softball games and dance recitals when I grew up. She also was my Northwestern football buddy. She would always sit with me at football games and try to get me on the big screen. She was so generous. Every time I saw her, she would try to feed me cookies, candies, or chips, all the good stuff. She also tried to give me all her things, piano, paperweights, or jewelry. She would also share stories about her family. She always was a kind person and inspired me to be a nicer person in life. She invited us to Florida and took us strawberry picking, swimming, and met all of her friends at the club. She wrote me letters at camp. I could not read her beautiful handwriting, but I found a counselor to read them to me. She loved random stops with our dog, Maverick. I will miss her so much, and she'll always have a special place in my heart.
And now, Adina Schoenberger.
Adina Sloan Schoenberger, Avi Sloan, Renana Sloan Lubavitch. We are the children of Bud Sloan. There are many things that you can say about saving a life. It's heroic, it's a godsend, it's unexpected. But there are not many who would say that it is tender. But it can be, and I speak of an instance where it was. To help you understand this, you need a little Sloan history. It starts with our mother Vivian and our father Bernard, or as he was better known as Bud or Buddy. Bud and Viv were an amazing couple for well over 40 years. The intense devotion that they had to one another is not necessarily seen often these days. The phrase Bud and Viv was as constant as the phrase rock and roll. And one could say that in part, it defined their marriage. Dad tended to Mom early in their marriage as she struggled and, with incredible odds, beat cancer. He was her rock, and they rolled together with the punches throughout their lives. When Vivian passed away, our dad was despondent, far from himself, and definitely lost. But then along came Joe. With a reluctant heart, but with the urging of a well-meaning cousin, assuring my father that there was a very special lady that he absolutely had to meet, Dad agreed to meet Joe. And it was magic. Within the days of their first encounter, Joe was scheduled to leave Chicago on vacation, and we watched as my father seemed to be counting the days until her return. In fact, my sister Nani was preparing to leave Chicago permanently for a new life in California with her newly married husband, and based on her departing date, could only have one opportunity to meet this incredible woman who seemingly had restored our father to life. But to her surprise, he actually told her, "No, I want to be with Joe alone." The relationship blossomed, and his dad wondered how would he integrate Joe into his children's lives and make certain that they could truly understand the importance that Joe had in his new life. He cemented his love for her at their wedding, where, as you will remember, he voiced the lyrics, "Love is wonderful the second time around." There was no one in that room that day who could not deny that Buddy was back, and it was solely because along came Joe into his life. There were picnics that she planned, always making sure that everyone had a sandwich, a Caribbean cruise for the entire family. Both the Hearses and the Sloans that Joe took charge of planning, and as in the years that passed, it became evident that this was not a blended family, but rather a single family unit. So, thank you, dear Joe, for bringing life back into our father, and may you have a tender reunion with him. Amen.
Really beautiful words from everybody. There's an old Jewish teaching, nearly 2,000 years old, that says that God dwells in our presence when two people get together to study Torah with one another. I take this to mean that it can be sacred when two people get together to do something important. Not only connects people to one another, but our tradition suggests that these valuable face-to-face encounters invite God into their presence. Joe, Mama, Nana Joe, Nana One, by whichever name you knew her, embodied this special tradition. Joe was present, invested, involved, sweet, intelligent, and engaging. To be with Joe was to have the potential for a sacred encounter. Joe grew up in West Rogers Park, where she met Richard Hirsch, her beloved husband of 36 years. While they did one of the most important things two people can do together, to build a sweet, loving, and close family, Joe also pursued her own life. She studied Spanish at Northwestern University, as well as the University of Mexico. She taught Spanish briefly, taught as a substitute, and later in life did calligraphy and party planning. While Joe's extensive, impressive, and close network of relationships filled much of her time, she was also an independent woman who had her own life as well. Joe became a mother when she and Richard had Gary and Ellen. She attended all of Ellen's games where she was a cheerleader, stood out to Gary as the den leader for them and all of their friends, and remained a loving, positive, and supportive presence as their family grew. As Gary and Millie and Ellen and Bill had families, Joe took her 6 grandchildren on individual trips each year, ensuring that they got individual attention and built strong one-on-one relationships. Then when her grandchildren had children, she wrote beautiful letters to her great-grandchildren, when they were at camp and attended softball games and other events late into her life. With each generation, Joe's presence as a mom and Nana only grew every time she got together with a loved one and created the opportunity for a deep and authentic connection. After Richard passed away, Joe helped create the garden out in front of this synagogue that you may have walked by on your way in to honor his memory. She later married Bud Sloan and had another loving marriage, this time for 25 years, and gained stepchildren and step-grandchildren. Everyone could recognize Joe's friendly nature. Nearly everyone she met, she befriended. Even those who stopped by the house on their way to Ravinia or on Halloween while she was dressed up as a witch, or a friend of Ellen's who went out of their way to spend time with Joe. Some people attract others just because of their character and their good nature, and Joe was one of those people. This Jewish teaching about two people inviting God's presence by studying Torah together doesn't end with just two people. 3 or even 5 people, a small group, can also bring God's presence into their gathering by studying with one another. So while Joe had strong relationships with her husbands, her children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren, she was also an important member of small groups. Starts with being a mother and a grandmother, a great-grandmother, but it doesn't end there. She was an avid bridge player, as we heard, in a group of 5 up until only a few weeks ago. Joe was the one who knew how to keep score, kept everyone focused on the positive aspects of their lives, and at times played peacemaker. She played tennis, volleyball, and badminton, would take small groups to see her beloved Chicago Cubs. Joe was an important partner in a two-way relationship and a valuable member of the team as well. And then the largest number this Jewish teaching mentions is 10, which represents a gathering. And while studying Torah in a pair or a small group is great, getting 10 people together grants access to certain Jewish rituals like taking the Torah out or reciting particular prayers. Like for Joe, everybody loved her, and that is evident in her family relationships, friendships, and groups of which she was a part. And she also loved to gather people together for a party. She'd always throw a hats-off celebration for her family and her friends, and then it was time for hats off to Joe last March, when many of you sang and ate and gave speeches in honor of Joe on her 99th birthday. She was a positive presence for so many on an individual level, in small groups, and in celebrations. With one person, 4, or a full house, Joe was a sacred convener for so many. When we say, may someone's memory be for a blessing, in Jewish tradition, we often mean that we hope this person's life continues to impact our own even after they're gone. One way we can do that is by following their example, Joe's example. We can show up for our family and for our friends. We can listen deeply to one another. We can be intentional with the ones we love. We can celebrate being alive and not miss out the chance to gather for each other's joyous occasions. We can be involved. We can have fun in a game of bridge, a Halloween costume, cheering on the Cubs, or playing tennis. These are ways we can honor Joe and the amazing life she lived. Zichrona livracha, may Joe's memory continue to be a blessing in these ways and more for all who knew her. So as we mentioned, Joe's life was a blessing in so many ways. We give thanks to God for having been on a journey in life together with her. And in her passing, we can find comfort in knowing that her soul is bound up in life eternal, and her memory will forever be a blessing. So at this time, we offer words of our tradition as we pray that God protects and keeps Joe's soul for eternity. Cantor Lindsay will recite our memorial prayer, El Malei Rachamim, then we'll read it together in English, and I'll invite everybody to rise if you are able to do so at this time.
Sem nu chana tachat kan vi haschina. Im kedoshim utaharim kezuhar harakim hazahirim. Enismot, Josephine Yakirenu, Shehachale Ulama, Balarachamim, Yasireha Betseter Kanafav Leulabim. Veitror bitror hachavim nishmato Aronai nachlato. Vitanuach b'shalom al mishkava v'nomar Amen.
Please join me. O God, full of compassion, thou who dwellest on high, grant perfect rest beneath the sheltering wings of thy presence among the holy and pure who shine as the brightness of the firmament unto the soul of Josephine H. Sloan, who has gone unto eternity. Lord of mercy, bring her under the cover of thy wings. Let her soul be bound up in the bond of eternal life. Be God's possession, and may her repose be peace. Amen. Everybody may be seated. We're going to conclude with a song to honor Jo the way she lived, celebrating with loved ones. In our case, celebrating Jo and the life, family, and community that she built. Please join us in the words of Ose Shalom, a prayer for peace and for wholeness.
Ose shalom bimromav, Ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru, amen. Ya'aseh shalom, Ya'aseh shalom, Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, Ya'aseh shalom, Ya'aseh shalom, Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, Ya'aseh shalom, Ya'aseh shalom, Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, Ya'aseh shalom, Ya'aseh shalom, Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, Ya'aseh shalom, Ya'aseh shalom, Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael.
Ladies and gentlemen, the interment service will be private at Shalom Memorial Park. However, for anyone who wants to go in the procession, please bring your car to the front of the Perlman Sanctuary. We'll have people to provide flags and stickers to your car. For those of you who are going, please be sure you have your bright lights and hazard lights on at all times. Use your horn liberally as you're going through the intersections. Please do not speak or text on your cellular phone while driving in the procession. The Shiva will continue following the interment at the Hirsch residence at 1233 Lincoln Avenue South. They'll be together today from 3 p.m. to 8 p.m. At this time, I invite everyone to please rise as we have the pallbearers come forward to escort the casket of Josephine H. Sloan from the Perlman Sanctuary. Then you may return to your cars.